In today's video, I want to show you how every cell in the body is ultimately derived from the food that we eat. And this is actually good news because this means that if you have any issues with organs or any tissues and you need regeneration, you have the power to regenerate that organ based on your diet. Let's just jump right in. Here is primarily the digestive system. Again, every cell formed in the body is ultimately derived from the food that we eat. So what this means to you is all tissues can regenerate as long as we provide the proper environment for it to do so. Now, the moment that you eat the food, you start chewing. You're chewing all your food, you're chewing all of your food, and then all of these juices, as we know as saliva, starts to break down the food. This is the initial breakdown of the food. The food then travels through the esophagus. From the esophagus, it knocks on the door of the stomach. This is the door right here. The moment it knocks on the door, the food now enters into the stomach, and it has gastric juices and all sorts of hydrochloric acid at the bottom of the stomach floor. That's now going to mix with the food and create what's known as chyme. This is just a smoothie-like consistency to turn the food into before it enters into its next location. Then another door from the stomach into the initial stage of the small intestine called the pyloric door. The pyloric door is right here. And the food goes from here into the duodenum. This area, the first 10 inches of the small intestine, is extremely important. This is where digestion happens. So I'm going to shift gears a little bit this way so that you could understand what juices are being secreted in this particular location so that the food could break down properly. This is the liver, and this is the gallbladder right over here. The gallbladder is going to secrete bile. You secrete bile so that we could break down the fat. That's why anytime you have some type of issue and they remove the gallbladder, you're also removing the capacity that you have to break down food properly, which is part of creating a red blood cell, part of creating your body. So this is the gallbladder, which stores biles, and then it secretes the bile into this portal right here. This is where the duodenum is. I just drew a small sectional area, which is right here. The bile goes into duodenum to break down food. You have the pancreas here, and the pancreas secretes insulin so that we can now break down the sugars that get into the food. Real quick, the pancreas, yes, we all know it produces insulin because that is the hormone that allows glucose into the bloodstream to enter body cells to be used for energy. Without the insulin, the blood glucose is stuck in the bloodstream, and then we have the issues with the diabetes. Another thing to think about for anyone that has type 2 diabetes, fat can also prevent insulin from letting glucose in the cells, which creates the toxic breakdown free radicals. I have another video on that, and that blocks the insulin signaling. Excess fat can be a reason for diabetes for type 2 diabetes if you are overweight. There are a lot of people who lost weight and the diabetes went away just off of that. So be aware of that. Fat blocks the signaling for the insulin. And then you have other enzymes that comes from the pancreas to help break down fat and protein. And those are called lipase, amylase, protease. Those just help break down fat, sugar, and protein. Now, once all of the juices are secreted onto the chyme, the food that you just ate, it goes into the small intestine. This big lumpy worm area right here. If you were to cut open the small intestine, you would see this mountain looking structure over here. It's called villi. It's little hairs that sticks up in your small intestine. Looks just like fingers, but they're very tiny. The follicles of hair, they're smaller than this. That's why it has to go through this process where it keeps on adding chemicals onto the food, natural chemicals, so that it could break down to be properly absorbed. The hairs in the small intestine, the villi, it sticks up, and they have enzymes that are on the outside surface of the villi that are able to help to break down the food to be absorbed into the structures that we are calling the villi, and then it's going to get sent into the liver for processing and purification. Because if we were to send out the food from the small intestine straight into the bloodstream, we would all be dead. Without the liver processing the food and eliminating all of the toxins and the pathogens and all of the everyday toxicities that we consume, it would be over for us. So the liver has a large responsibility. That's why you have to minimize eating poor foods as much as possible, because the liver has to filter out medications. It has to filter out if GMO foods. It has to filter out frankenfoods, the Doritos, the chips, the cookies. It has to filter out excess protein that you might be taking in from the animal. It has to do a lot of work. And aside from that, it also has to create vitamins. The liver is able to take minerals that are already in your body to create vitamins. That's why I'm always big on buying minerals instead of vitamins, because your body can actually make vitamins if you provide the actual minerals necessary from a whole foods diet to do so. Now, we're in the small intestine, and this is the small intestine. These are the villi. It absorbs into these little hairs. Now we're going to go over to the liver. This little meat right here is the liver. This section right here is the liver. This is the area where red blood cells are getting prepped and ready to become anything that you want it to become. And one thing we have to understand is that our mental is connected to our physical. Red blood cells are the only cells in our body that do not have a nucleus. What that means is they can become anything that your mind wants them to become. They can become anything that your body needs them to become. For instance, if you have unhealthy lungs, I'll leave my lungs alone, and the red blood cell factory over here decides to create some nice red blood cells out of what you just ate, the liver is going to prep the red blood cells to travel to the organ that needs regeneration. So now that the liver has equipped the red blood cells with the minerals it needs to send to the lungs, through electromagnetic frequency, the lungs are going to convert those cells into healthy lung tissue. But here's the catch. We're going to take the new red blood cells, travel into the lungs. The red blood cells has to vibrate at the same frequency as the lung tissue. Each and every organ vibrates at a different frequency. I'm going to put up a chart. I should be able to find it. That shows, I actually have one right behind me, but I could post it. It shows what vibration each and every organ vibrates at. So this might make a little bit more sense now. So the lungs vibrate at a megahertz of 58 to 65. When I talk about vibration, I'm talking about the rate in which the atom spins. When I talk about atoms, I'm talking about molecules. I'm just talking about cell structure. Each organ vibrates at a certain frequency. Now the red blood cell decides to travel to the organs, and it's going to look for healthy lung tissue, vibrate at that frequency in order to become the lung tissue. This probably sounds crazy because I'm pretty sure you might have never heard this in school. I went to a holistic school. You know, anybody that looked at my page, Dr. Africa. I also watched Minister Inky and several other people. The red blood cell is the new stem cell. We all know stem cells can become any tissue in the body to regenerate it. It doesn't stop there. What you eat, the red blood cell is the new stem cell and can become any cell that you want in the body. So when anybody tells you, oh yeah, you have cancer, the organ's failing, depending on what stage you're in or how far you let it go, you can regenerate that tissue as long as you believe it. So now we get to the lung, and we're looking for healthy tissue to vibrate at the same frequency so that we can become that tissue. So the red blood cell is over here. If it goes to the lungs and it can't find healthy tissue, it is now going to become degenerate tissue. It's going to vibrate at that low frequency. So I said the lung vibrated at 58 to 65 megahertz. If you smoked all your life, or if you were just eating a lot of toxins, or maybe you worked in some type of building or some type of, you were in some type of environment that just wasn't conducive to proper lung health, you're not going to have healthy lung tissue for the red blood cell to mimic in order to make healthy lung tissue. That's the problem. So that's when diet plays key role. Not that it can't happen. You could still regenerate it. But this is where the diet has to be strictly alkaline, strictly vegan, majority raw foods, because you need that electromagnetic frequency of the foods inside of your body so that it could give you the electricity that you need to generate some new organ tissue. So I'm going to erase this. I'll give another example just in case that sounded like a bunch of craziness. So the liver processes the blood, the red blood cells. The red blood cells have a negative charge outside of their membrane. Like when I say negative charge, I mean, oops, not even looking at it. I mean it has electrons. This is the sign for electron. It has a negative charge outside the membrane to keep them moving freely through your circulatory system. Once that charge is gone, whether it's from eating poor foods, not drinking enough water, not getting clean air, not getting sun, if the charge starts to die out, the blood is going to coagulate. It's going to start sticking together. It's going to start clumping together. In the way I feel, once the blood is clean, you will be fine. I am a huge fan of drinking blood purifiers, of taking things that's good for the blood. Yes, we can sit there and dissect each organ and give it different disease names and say that, oh, this caused this caused this. But the only reason that happens is because the blood becomes impure. The blood has to remain at 7.365 by any means necessary. The moment your blood starts to become acidic, if it's at 7.365 and then it drops to 6, it has to do something drastic in order to bring it back up to 7.365. So what is it going to do? Calcium is very alkaline. Where's the calcium? Where else is it? In your bones. It's going to take the calcium from your bones, from your teeth, and it's going to, through the parathyroid gland, because that balances the blood calcium level, it's going to take the calcium from those two areas and now send it into the blood to bring the blood back up alkaline. If you are extremely toxic, as the blood circulates, it's going to keep throwing the waste out into tissues, and it usually chooses the tissues or the organs in your body that's the weakest. That's how smart the body is. The body's not going to say, I'm going to throw some waste in her breast. I'm going to throw some waste in her uterus. I'm going to throw a waste in his prostate. I'm going to throw a waste in his heart. If you have an area that's already weak, your body is most likely going to continue to just throw the waste in that area. That's why you typically have one organ that's failing, because your body's not going to try to destroy all of you. It's like, all right, this is the weakest part. Let me just keep throwing the waste over there. And then you think, let me just focus on getting my liver right. Let me just focus on getting my high blood pressure. Focus on the blood. You clean your blood, you eat the right foods, you get clean air, you get some sun. You'll notice that your entire body is going to start shifting. Don't focus on one organ. Focus on the entire body. I'm heavy into blood purifiers, but I'll show you a couple. This is burdock root. It's already dried, cut and sifted. It's organic burdock root. It's a big time blood purifier. And the beautiful thing about herbs is they already know where to go. That's how amazing nature is. You don't have to. We all understand that with medication, when we take it, it goes everywhere, and it does, even though it's fixing one thing, it could do damage other places because it has to run through the entire body. Herbs have a natural intelligence in them that know exactly where to go. I have red raspberry right here. Red raspberry is very good for the uterus. The herb knows to go to the uterus. I have sarsaparilla right here, another excellent blood purifier, great for men too. I have yellow dock right here, high in iron, great for the blood. These herbs know what to do. I'm big into herbs. Circulation enhancement, that's also from high frequency. A little bit just to stimulate it so it can circulate properly, because thick blood is more work on the heart. So you here worrying about the heart and possibly the swelling of the legs, and you're like, how can I get the swelling down? How can I get my heart right? Because you have to get the blood right. You get the blood right, you get your heart right. You get the blood right, you get your colon right. You get the blood right, you get your stomach right. You have to get the blood right. And the only way to get the blood right is to get the diet right. I'm going to do another video where I'm going to show the top probably 20 things that you need to eliminate right away. I'll give you a couple now. Dairy, especially milk. Do not give your kids whole milk. The thing about milk, which is scary, is it bypasses this entire check and balance system that's in the body, where it could go through the purification.